Peter, I am naive, but I actually thought this could have been some sort of graceful exit, right? The Senate could have said, we're the ones who are going to take control of this. The tariffs don't make sense because for the most part, they all know these tariffs don't make sense. The only Republicans in Congress that are even going on TV defending the tariffs get fact-checked the whole way through. Couldn't this have been a graceful exit that Trump could have said, gosh darn it, I wanted to do this, but they stopped me. I don't like it. Wouldn't that have really saved face and gotten us out of this quagmire?
But the truth is what you said earlier. He doesn't want the exit. He doesn't want to get out of this. He's perfectly fine at this point doing this, and he will negotiate some deals. And the question is whether he will declare victory and go home after some face-saving deals that he can call a victory, and that he will therefore say we've changed the economy, or does he actually take us over the cliff into that economic abyss? We don't know where that leads. You know, another Smoot-Hawley.
Okay, face-saving deals. So he can sit on a throne in the White House as smaller countries that are far more vulnerable can crawl up to the White House presenting gifts of gold and myrrh and frankincense. But that's not going to change that we now have a full-scale trade war with China, and we're going back and forth, not even being honest about whether we're talking to them.
Well, it has been pretty remarkable. I know we were talking about Scott Bessent earlier. I mean, what the Treasury Secretary has been, bobbing and weaving and ducking is the embarrassing fact that he knows that Donald Trump is not talking to the Chinese, but he can't admit that his boss has been lying shamelessly over and over again. And, we're not close to a deal, despite what Donald Trump has said. And what's remarkable, of course, is that, most trade deals take years and years, literally years, to negotiate. So the idea that Donald Trump is going to have, 3 dozen or 90 trade deals, not going to happen. So he's created, once again, false expectations that can't possibly be met. But just to your other point, Stephanie, he's not taking an off-ramp from something he's dreamed his whole life of doing. And I think that, the sort of the adrenaline rush, the power trip, whatever you want to call it, of having the entire world economy. And by the way, it's also the CEOs of all the major companies, in addition to leaders of countries who are now having to beat their way to Donald Trump's doorstep and beg and plead for, the almighty shake of, Pennsylvania Avenue.
Every Wall Street titan calling the White House. I mean, he got to experience the absolute adrenaline rush of one statement, one tweet, one Truth Social post moving global markets.
Well, that's right. So there's an anecdote in the book that Peter and I wrote about the divider in the first term, where he was literally a man giddy with his power at the beginning of his first presidency in 2017. And he would be sitting in an office with one of his staff. They'd be arguing over something. And he would say, here, watch this. And he would pick up his phone and he would tap out his tweet. And then he'd be watching television at the same time and watch the Chiron shift. Okay, this is a man who is reveling in his power to single-handedly now reshape the globe. At that time it was tweets. Now he's moving ahead with the things that his advisors constrained him from doing in the first term.
Okay, when we talk about that, I must go to today's cabinet meeting. But before we do, I want to ask you, why don't you think the Senate wouldn't split with the president right now? Every member of Congress are getting called, right, by their constituents, by businesses, big and small, panicked about what the tariffs are doing to them.
I think you can sum it up in 2 words: John Cornyn. John Cornyn is going to be up against Paxton, the attorney general down there.
Ken Paxton. Give it to us.
In a March primary next year. He's very worried that he's going to lose. He's very worried that after a, frankly, unremarkable senatorial career, that he's finally going to lose in a primary, and he doesn't want to do that. And I think that if you look at the Senate map for next year, there's a whole bunch of red states up. Right.
And if we're in a recession, you think you're going to win?
Well, you're not going to win if Elon decides to jump 25 or $30 million on your head and say you're the anti-MAGA. In Arkansas, in Texas, these are places where you cannot win if Donald Trump is not on your side in a primary. And I think that they're all scared to death.